In this short video, I will give an explanation on the differences between an active list and a static list inside of HubSpot. So if you go into your HubSpot account and you go to make your first list, obviously you're going to be presented these two options, active list, static list, but it's not so obvious of what is the differences between these two things. So HubSpot gives a really brief description of what an active list is. Active lists automatically update over time. Records will join or leave the list as their properties change. And then a static list do not automatically update as your records change. A static list represents a single moment in time. And then you have company-based, which has the same thing. We'll just do contact because that's mainly what people use it for. But if you're a B2B company and you're selling to companies, then maybe you definitely want to have some lists for those companies. But for now, we'll just do contact based. If we go into the HubSpot knowledge base, we can see that they give a bit more information about the differences, but they really don't show you when you set it up, like how do you set it up so that it meets certain criteria, right? So let's actually do that. So let's first start off by setting up an active list, and we'll just say test active list. We'll click on next, and now we're presented with some properties. So these are the filters that you want to select for the particular criteria that you're setting up. So you can choose from a whole bunch of different properties. Page view, so for example, if they visited a certain page and HubSpot tracked that they visited that page, you could say, okay, I want to make an active list of all the people that visited my home page. But as soon as they visit the Contact Us page, remove them from the home page list, because now they visited the Contact Us page, and that is someone that is qualified for us to reach out to get them to buy our services. That's obviously just an example. I just thought of that out of my head right there. But you get the idea. You can set up different filter types based on different things that you're trying to achieve. So for example, if I wanted to do a filter based on the contact properties, then you can see here I am now given more options to choose from. So I can say the date that they first visited the page, or the last activity date, when they opened their sales email, when was that, right? So we can create an active list that says I only want this list to be full of people who opened the first email, but as soon as they open that second email, we want to remove them from the list. And the cool thing about active lists is it does it automatically, which is why it's so powerful. So let's just say that we are going to do, there's so many options. So let's do first page scene. And then as you select the options, you'll get one layer deeper. So if we go back here, this is the first layer. I selected contact properties, right? And then I went and scrolled down and I clicked on first page scene. That's the second layer. And now this is the third layer where we can say, all right, what do we want the values to be, right? If this happens, then what happens, right? If then statement, basically. So we can say contains the name of the page, right? Or we can say is not equal to that page, right? Or contains any of. So you're able to really get granular on the different options. It's just a matter of what you decide on. So what I'm going to do though is I'm going to go into this area, and I am just going to click on last paid amount, and I'm just going to make it so that is known. So it's not really specific, but I just want to know who made, I want to make a list of who actually made a payment. And then once you have made that option, so once you selected that option, then you can click apply filter. Normally it does show a preview, so let's see, maybe I don't have anyone for is known. Let's do is unknown and see if that does anything. And if not, we can just select a different option. Okay, cool. So these are all my test accounts basically. So this is a test account. It's not a live HubSpot account, just so that I can show you guys demos. But as you can see, this is now a list of all the people who their last paid amount is unknown. So we don't know what these people paid, right? But as soon as this changes, as soon as we do know when their last paid amount was, then they will get removed from this list. And that's an active list. It basically does all the work for you based on the criterias. Oops, I just messed that up. Let's set that back. But basically, it lets you set the criteria, and it does all the work for you. So you don't have to go in here manually and do everything. So I'll click apply, and then you can get really specific. So last payment amount is unknown. Okay, and then you could do and or statements. So like and view the page, right? Or and open an email. Or you can just leave it here. You don't have to do this. You click on save list, and now it's going to process that list. So that's an active list. It's pretty simple to do. It's just a matter of what you're trying to achieve in terms of the options. They do give you a lot of options. So I would think about it this way. When you're setting up your list, think of the actions that you would manually do that you want the active list to do for you, and that will give you a better idea of like what type of options or selections you should select. Okay, now let's create another list. Let's create a static list. So we'll say test active list 2. Boom. All right, so let's click on next. And now, before we dive into the rest of the video, we like to thank our video sponsor, Cartfuel. Cartfuel is the easiest and quickest way for you to accept one-time and recurring payments in HubSpot. All you need to do is connect your Stripe or PayPal account, configure your payment form by adding countdown timers, coupons, or order bumps, then copy and paste the code they provide you onto any site, including WordPress or HubSpot pages. Did we mention Cartfuel has one-click upsells? That's right, your customers can order more products without having to re-enter their credit or debit card with a single click. But you want to know what's the best part? When a sale occurs with Cartfuel, your customer's name, email address, phone number, and products they purchase will teleport into HubSpot. It's like magic. This means you can trigger workflows to boost customer retention and decrease refund rates. All this and more with no custom code needed. Try Cartfuel for free for 14 days by clicking the link in the description or comment section of this video. All right, let's get back to the content. Now, this is a bit different. Now, we are presented with some filters, just like we are presented with filters in the active list. But for the static list, these filters, they basically, it doesn't remove them if the property changes. So basically, let's say that I wanted to, let's have, product purchase. Oops, let's go back. And let's say that the product name contains book. Okay, so now this is a static list of all the people who bought a particular product with the name book in the product name. So there's 3 people here. So if I click on apply filter here, these 3 people, once I save this list, these 3 people will always be on this list. If the property changes, if they buy another thing and the product name that they buy is not book, or we change it and we add an or statement or an and statement and we add another property that has to be true for this to populate, regardless if we change anything, it's going to stay the same. So keep that in mind. It's not an active list. It's not going to, oh, I just realized that I made a mistake. Test static list. There we go. It's a static list. So it's not an active list. It's a static list, meaning that people will not be removed from this list if their properties change. So if I click on save list, these 3 people are going to be on this list forever. But the cool thing about static lists, and one thing that I like to do with them, is I like to use them in my workflows. So instead of creating these lists or adding people to the list manually, what I like to do is I'll just create a list. And I'll create a static list. So I'll say workflow static list. And I will click on next. And I won't apply any filters. I'll just save the list with no filter. And the reason why I do that is because then within the workflows, I can set up a workflow that says, let's do this one. That says, all right, when they buy this thing, product name contains book, add them to the static list. So I can add them to a static list. The thing about workflows is you cannot add them to a active list. So for example, if I go in here and I click list management, you don't see the option for add to active list. And the reason for that is because the active list is based on particular properties or options that you select that is going to dynamically update. So for this particular idea, what we're doing here is it triggers when this event happens, and then we want to add them to that static list. And the reason why we can add them to the static list is because it's static. It's not dynamic. It's not changing based on different options. It's only adding them to the static list because it is a static list. It does not change. It's not dynamic. So I hope that makes sense. And that's what I like to do. I like to just make those static lists empty with no filters at first, and then set up workflows based on different triggers, based on different things, and add them to the list. And then I could create an active list based on the different properties of this person who may be in a static list. So I hope that made sense. It's a bit confusing, but I like to do that. It kind of gives me more, it gives me a better workflow, and it gives me a easier way to manage what I'm doing, especially when you have like a lot of different workflows or you're selling a lot of things. You can get a bit more granular on what they buy with static lists, and then you can later down the line use active lists to create a more filtered list. So that is how you do it. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.